Hi guys, it's Galia here, and I just wanted to introduce to you a little bit about what this pop-up is about. Jenny Grant has picked Hilma Af Klint as the artist to introduce to us for International Women's Day, and she's an artist whose work I really love, so I got excited to do a little exploration of her work. And what we're going to do together is a color study from this piece, and also have a look at some of the motifs and symbols that she uses in her work. And then I'm going to take that information and use it to create something of my own. Now, you could do this exercise, this color wheel exercise, with any artwork that's inspiring you. And then take that information that you gather into your own piece. And you might be wondering what the point of this is. And the point really is about looking. So I spent a lot of time, as you'll see in the video, with this piece, really looking at the colors and pulling them out to work with. And I think that's what I gained the most from. Yes, you could do this really quickly. You could do it without actually doing the color wheel. You could just take the colors and run with them. That's fine. But there's a lot to be gained from doing the work and actually studying the piece. Like, there's a lot of things, a lot of distinctions that I wouldn't have made if I hadn't taken the time to do this. And then after I've done this exercise with you, I go off on my own. You don't see me doing this, but I take these colors, and again I use the gouache, and I take these motifs and I create just this little piece. It was actually lap art. I did it on my lap watching TV, just playing and doodling, but inspired by some of the shapes and symbols that I pulled out. And then to fill this page, again, I kept doodling. This time I used colored pencils and some Posca markers and some Tombow pens and just different mixed media, just to do a doodle. And that was a lot of fun. And the idea is not to copy the work, but to inspire and fill my own creative well, so that I then can draw on it when I'm doing my own work. So I do this exercise from the piece, and then I put the original away and just go to my blank page and begin with the colors. So I hope you find this useful, an exercise that you can then take to explore any artist that you decide to study, or any piece. If it's the color that you really love. I mean, it's really good to look at a piece and say, well, what am I drawn to about this piece? Is it the color? Is it the shape, the composition, the symbols, the tones, the mark making, all of these things, and then dive deep and explore that particular aspect or those aspects. I remember when I first saw these pieces at the Guggenheim, they're really big, and they're all in a room together. There's 10 of them. They are representing the stages of life, from infancy or birth. I can't remember whether it was preconception. This is the first one, childhood. And they're just really were powerful to see them together like that. And one of the things that really struck me about these pieces, this series of 10, is the colors, because they didn't feel to me like the sort of colors of the time that they were created in 1900s. They felt to me very contemporary or later, even pop colors. They didn't feel like it just didn't seem of the time. So, you know, she was ahead of her time. She was doing, some people have called her the mother of European abstract art, because she was creating these pieces before even Kandinsky was creating his abstract pieces. And she kind of dove in. And, you know, looking at them, I'm not even sure that I myself see them necessarily as abstract. I mean, to me, they're very much symbolize what they're actually showing, just in a different language, in her own language. All that aside, she's well ahead of her time. Her work is amazing. Take a look at it, and if you want to join in on this exercise, you could pick a different piece, whatever piece is drawing to you. I mean, there's gorgeous colors in these. And here's with the orange. It's just amazing. I use gouache. You can use any material you like. Hilma used tempera, which, if you don't know, is a paint that is mixed with the color pigments, but with egg yolk. And so it kind of has this sort of, I don't know, the chalkiness of the gouache, I think, kind of suits it in a way. Oh, here comes the sun. So that's enough of me rambling, although it's not, because I'm going to ramble all through the video, sharing my process and the little things that I glean as I spend half an hour looking closely at this piece. And I do hope that you will then pick a piece, pull out some colors and symbols, and make your own piece, a piece that is inspired from the work of either this amazing woman artist or another woman artist who really speaks to you. I've been inspired by Hilma Af Klint for many years, and was very excited when I got to see her work at the Guggenheim in 2018. And I have this book here from the exhibition, and I'm going to be working from that. It's a beautiful book. It has a lot of her paintings in it. It also has some essays about her work and so forth. I think the reproductions are pretty good, and it's pretty comprehensive. I'm going to be working from this series here, which I really loved when I saw them. These are big pieces. They are like over 3 meters by 2 meters, and then there was like a whole room of them. And they are pieces that she created in 1907 over a period of 3 months. So quite fast and furious, these particular pieces, given the size that they are. I am going to look at this one, and I will be working in my master study. Oh, that's not it. Where is my book? The right book. So many books, so many sketchbooks. All right, this is my master studies sketchbook. It is a Stillman and Byrne Zeta series in the hardcover A4. I love these books. I use them a lot. This sketchbook here is just for doing master studies of other artists. I think it's really important that when you do a copy, that you're clear that it's a copy. You can learn a lot from studying the work of other artists, but you need to, like, it's an exercise. It's not actually your artwork. So in here, I sort of like explore, like this one here. Egon Schiele, I love his landscapes. So I just had a little look at a detail from one of his pieces, which I've done completely different in mixed media, but just trying to get some of the ideas that spoke to me in that piece. Same here. I loved this landscape of his, but I've explored it in different media, just trying to pull away something for myself from it. Here's some explorations of Jan Eardley, another wonderful artist, Scottish artist, well worth exploring. Beautiful, energetic landscapes. So I've done a little study of those, a little study of a contemporary artist here in watercolor. So I'm just going to do a study of, pull out some pieces from this piece here. What I'm going to be looking at, I was thinking, what am I wanting to take away from this series? I mean, there's so much here. Her particular symbolism and the motifs that are reoccurring, the language that she uses outside of language with these symbols, I find really interesting, and its connection to both the mysticism that she was channeling, but also to what was going on scientifically at the time, and what we were becoming aware of, you know, the worlds of the unseen atom and stuff like that. So there's those sorts of things. I find the way she's represented all of that quite fascinating. But also I was really interested in the colors. I love the colors. They're kind of bold, but they're also soft, and so I really loved that. So they're some of the things I'm thinking about that I want to take. And then when I've had a little study of the colors that I'm going to draw out of this piece, then I can take, and some of the motifs that I'm also going to pull out. For example, when I was in New York and saw her exhibition, I just pulled a couple of the little motifs out to put in my sketchbook to remind me of that, and a bit of the colors. Really love them. During Arcana Mysteries, her swan piece really spoke to me and inspired one of my pieces here, because swans is something I love to work with a lot. So I've taken some of those elements into my piece. And then I have a mandala paying homage to her. Like, there's swans again. They pop up all the time in my work. A particular meaning for me, which is quite possibly very different from what they meant for Hilma, but because we'll never really know. She wrote a lot, but there's also a lot of questions. So this spread here was inspired by her work. This sort of rainbows, the prisms, this sort of interplay of rainbows, and was like a yin and yang. She was very interested in esoteric, comparative religion. So where the religions integrate with each other. She's got a whole series on those. So I'm going to pull out some other pieces today to work from in this one, mainly with color. We're going to start with color, and I have just printed out a little copy of the piece that I'm going to work from, so that I can have that there in my sketchbook as a reminder. This is just on Polaroid print. I'm going to just put that down there. It's for my own reference. And the first thing I want to do is look at the colors. What colors are in this piece? And I'm going to do a color wheel with them. So I've got my compass here, and I'm just going to do a color wheel. Where's the center? I want to know where my center is. I should have pressed harder. That's pretty good. So that's my center. Just mark it with the pen. And let's have a look what colors we can see. So the first color that I'm noticing is this blue that she has. And I'm going to be using my gouache set, but you could do this in watercolor, acrylic, pastels, pencils, whatever you've got that you work with. I'm looking at this blue, and I'm deciding what sort of blue is it. It's a little bit ultramarine. It's a little bit greener in some parts. And as I'm looking at it, I can really see the yellow underneath that blue that's coming through and optically mixing to make it look a little bit greener than it is. So I get my ultramarine and decide whether that's, see, to me that's too ultramarine-y, so I'm going to mix that with a bit of phthalo blue, and I'm just mixing it on my page and deciding what do I think. And I think that that's pretty good with the two colours sort of mixed together. It's not quite a phthalo blue, it's not quite a ultramarine blue. And I'm just going to come into my colour wheel and draw a segment in this blue. Now, this blue is quite dominant in this piece. It's the background. It holds a lot of the weight of the piece. So I'm going to do quite a big segment with it. And I'm going to do it quite rough and brushy because her piece is rough and brushy. She worked fast on these to get them all done in the 3 months that she was working on this collection. And then I'm just going to let it mix on the paper for expedience. You might want to pre-mix your colours, match it as close as you can. But I just want a sense of it. As you look at this, and as particularly you would see this when they're in front of you, you can really see the background underneath. And I think as I'm looking at it, I'm realizing that a lot of the color is actually coming from that optical mixing of what's beneath. Okay, the next color I'm looking at is this pink, because it really pops on the piece against the darker blue. And I have in my palette, I have this sort of apricot color, which is going to be too orangey. See, that's too orangey. So I'm just going to mix a bit of carmine in that and see if I can get it closer. It's gouache, so it's going to dry darker, so I need to lighten that up a bit more. I think that's pretty good. And I'm liking the mixing it like this, because it's giving, these are not flat colors, they're quite dynamic. So I'm just going to pull this one out over here, and I'm trying to work out how much of the page does this color actually take up, how much of the piece. So I'm just going to guesstimate roughly that it takes up about that much of the pie. If this artwork was a pie, how much of the pie is this pinky color. Clean up my brush between. Now, next I'm looking at the yellow, and I'm thinking again, what sort of yellow is it? It's almost a lemony yellow, but it's a little bit warmer than a yellowy lemon, and it's kind of a little bit pastel-y as well. So what do I have on my palette to do that? I'm going to try what have I got here? It's like a Naples yellow. Just pretty close, but I just think I want to add just a tiny bit of this lemony yellow into it. Quite like that. So I'm going to put a wedge of that onto my pie. I'm leaving a space between them because I don't want to, so that they can dry, but also I'm thinking about how much the next color that I want to look at is, which is going to be the orange, and I think it's going to fit in there nicely when I get to it. It's an interesting yellow. It's kind of both a cool yellow and a warm yellow, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Now I'm looking at this color here behind the flowers, and here and down here, and it's like a white, but it's not a white. You can really see the color underneath, and it looks like there's like an orangey color underneath. Particularly you can see it here in some of the flowers. So that's really interesting. Well, you don't really notice that until you sort of like stop and study these. That's why this is effective. So I'm going to put down an orange base. It's kind of like this really warm yellow. Let that dry and then come over it with the white, and I'm going to put that in my wheel as well. And I actually think there's a fair chunk of this, so I'm going to put a decent there is more of this color than there is of the pink in the piece. In fact, while I'm thinking about it, I'm actually going to take it further, because I think that the blue over this color would be good. Did she work on a ground, or did she paint it a different color and then decided she wanted to change the color and she worked over the top? This color underneath could very well be this orange, and this orange here is just what she's left the negative painting of. So now it's dry, I'm coming in with some white over the top. Because this is gouache, the top color is activating the undercolor, and it might need to be built up a bit to get more of the effect. But I do like bits showing through. Let that dry a bit and come back on top. Now the other color that she has on this piece is that orange. And even though it's only a small part of the piece, it pops a lot. It's quite a dominant color. Mine needs a little bit hotter than that. That's pretty good. I'll put this one in here. You can see already just a small slither of this is going to change the relationship between these colors, because it's a dominant color. Has a dominant weight next to the other colors, and it's a complementary of the blue, so opposite on the color wheel, which makes it sort of vibrate against that blue and add a lot of dynamism. Can't say that word. Dynamism to the piece. Is that the correct grammar there? I don't know. You get what I mean. Right, what else we have? In this piece we have blue here and a blue here, and they're a bit different, I think. This blue is a lot lighter, and this blue is quite a bit darker, and looking at them both, I can both see that they are over the top of the other colors. So let's try that. I'm going to try putting them over like a pinky colour. See, like a pinky colour coming through. It's not quite the orange coming through or the yellow. I'm going to put 2 swatches down of that and let that dry because they're quite different blues, I think. They don't have a lot of space in the painting, but they do add some interest. And the difference is kind of softens the whole blue. It gives that blue that's dominating the piece more of a more tonality and interest. I'm just going to turn this around so I can get that in. I do love the way these colours, I wouldn't have noticed so much if I hadn't done this study, how much they are relying on optical mixing, which is when colours aren't blended completely but are created through the vibration of the colours next to each other, which is what you see in these colours, like this white with the orange. It's kind of, it's not white and it's not orange, it's kind of, your eye mixes them. Same with the here with the yellow coming through. So it's not like the brush work next to each other is doing it, but it's the glazing, the overlay of the colour with the other colour showing underneath. So our blues, so one of them is quite light and it does look like ultramarine, sort of like a light ultramarine with lots of white. So, and then the other one is a little bit darker. It needs to be a bit lighter. Okay, and then this blue here is a fair bit darker. You can see that because it's gouache, the colours are drying darker. But this is just an exercise. It doesn't have to be exact. It's more about the looking. Still darker. So I'm looking at this and I'm wanting to go over a little bit more with the blue. So this darker blue over the top of the yellow. But I'm actually looking at my piece and I'm thinking it actually needs that yellow because that yellow again is more dominant in her piece. I don't think my pie there is, my little wedge is big enough. So I'm going to turn this yellow more into the yellow that we thought. So even though it's not together, it is spread out. I don't know, it's kind of, it pops. And then this one here, I want to put some of this blue, phthalo blue mix over the top that we had here. Like, and I'll scruffy this up a bit to get that sort of textured thing, and then see what it looks like over that. Because in bits it almost looks green from the optical mixing, even though I think it's more over the yellow than the orange on the pinky colour. So that's my palette. And before I move on, I'm going to take this a little bit lighter still. It's pretty light there, but here it's just drying a bit too dark. A bit more white onto that. All right, I'm just going to pause for a sec because I want to find something to show you, and then I'm going to move on to the second part of the exercise. So, of course, I couldn't find it on the day, but I did find it a couple of days later. And what this color wheel is meant to represent is the weight of these colors. So here is meant to be no one color is more dominant on this wheel than the other, but in order for, say, the purple to hold its ground, to be as dominant on this wheel as, say, the orange or the yellow, you need to have more of it. The yellow, because it's quite a hot color, doesn't require as much, and so on. Red and green are sort of more even. The orange is quite a hot color. Now, this is just one example. Obviously, if you have different sorts of purples and different shades, then they're going to have different dominance. Colors are also, they don't exist in isolation, so they're always in relation to each other. And in our Hilma Af Klint piece, there's a lot of blue that is contrasted with the orange. So because they're opposite on the color wheels, they vibrate with each other and give each other the contrast that makes them more alive. Yellow and purple are opposite on the color wheel as well. And that's, you know, you often see that in nature, yellow and purple within a one flower, because that contrast together vibrates and then attracts the bees and so on. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind with a piece and with your colors when you're trying to create contrast in a piece. Like, what is the dominance? What is the weight of the colors that you are using in relation to each other? Let's move on to the next part. Now I'm going to be having a look at these pieces and pulling out some of the motifs and the shapes and the symbols that I like. I really love this one here, which she has various versions of. It's one that I used in my my art journal from going to the exhibition. So I'm just going to draw it very loosely. I'm not trying to, well, I am kind of copying it, I guess. I am copying it, but I'm not laboring over it. Great. I love that these shapes are so organic. And there's a symmetry to them as well. Even as they are organic, they're also symmetrical in some way, in an organic, balanced way. And then, of course, it's got these little flowers with a stamen and so forth. So I love that shape. And of course we have these squiggly flowers. They have like it's like a cell dividing almost vibe to them. Just like this real repetitive idea of fertility and coming together and multiplying and union and transformation in her work. Let's have a look. I love this. It's like a flower, but off center. I like that. So let's have a look at that. Just pulling these out, and then when I come to do my own piece, I can take these ideas and this color palette and run with them and make them my own. We'll sort of step away from looking at her work and see what wants to be created with this just as a jumping point. This idea too. It's like a infinity symbol. It's infinity symbols within infinity symbols, but also within the circle. And then this. Very rough. I'm not trying to copy her work, so it's just rough play. I can see already that hers bump up against each other, so she can do that. And let's try again. Even doing it this loosely, it makes me think about what am I looking at and what did I like about it. I love this is like a primary colours, red, blue, yellow, only it's pink, it's a pale blue and it's a softer yellow. This intersection, that's what happens when they come together. What else? I love this one too. Oh, and this one, which is kind of like a play on this one. It's like this one mirrored. It also looks a bit like a spider with too many legs. What else do I want to pull out? And of course, there's the spirals, lots of spirals. Look at these, moving away from each other and look like they're talking to each other here. It's like the same image in conversation, and these intersections and this sort of, it's all very fascinating. It's overlayings and connections and all the things. All right, let's see if there's any others we want to pull out from some of these others. With very organic shapes, symmetry, but not quite, and the intersections, the overlaying. So I think I've got enough here that I want to play with. I've got some different symbols and shapes and ideas, even just like this sort of like bursting forth of things. It feels really fertile. And here we've got like a love heart. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there, and I will share with you what I create with my color palette and some imagery ideas. And I'm just going to play and make something that's not a copy. This will go away now.